Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 35 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Hope everybody's doing well, having a fantastic day, and taking time to appreciate what you have in your life. You know, it's so easy for us to all get caught up in the speed of life and all that we have going on, but we need to make sure we're taking time to slow down, appreciate what we have, and all there is to life, because it goes pretty quick. Okay, today we have Ryron Gracie back answering listeners' questions, and we'll also pay tribute to a special man, Chet Skimmerhorn. And Chet was featured with a full interview in episode 13, so if you haven't heard that, certainly check it out. Let's start with a jiu-jitsu quote. Jiu-jitsu is the only art that allows you to win a fight without hurting your opponent. I use striking techniques to open the way for submissions. My objective is not to knock anyone out. I don't want to hurt my opponents. I only want to make them tap so they can go home and train again. And that's from Damian Maia, professional UFC fighter and world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. Okay, let's talk to Ryron. Okay, Ryron Gracie is back with me today to answer some of the listeners' questions that have been sent in. So welcome back, Ryron.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So before we get to that, we want to recognize someone very special. Professor Chet Skimmerhorn has been a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructor for 20 years. Actually, he recently hit the 20-year mark. So I'd like to say a really big congratulations to him for that. Quite an accomplishment, and acknowledge all the time, dedication, and commitment that went into achieving this. He's touched the lives of countless people, and one of those people recently sent me an email to talk about Chet. So I just want to read a little bit of that before we get into it. Adam Wright is one of Chet's students, and he sent me an email. It started off, first and foremost, thank you for doing what you do. Very good podcast and great content. Each and every episode gets better and better. So thank you, Adam. I appreciate always great to hear feedback like that. Later into the email, he writes, as a student of Chet's, I can speak firsthand of the purity of the art he teaches.
With Grandmaster Elio's mindset first and foremost, Chet is an amazing instructor. He has the ability to relay information in a multitude of ways so that each time one sees a technique, one can pick up more detail or slight adjustment that had been missed on the previous occasion. I could ramble on and on about the greatness of this man and the way he changes lives. His lineage of training and the Gracie challenges from back in the day has allowed him to share the mat with the who's who in the Gracie family. So thanks again, Adam, for writing in. And Hedron, you want to chime in here a little bit?
Yeah. The most amazing thing is that Chet never lived in Los Angeles, never, went every day to the Gracie Academy for years and years. And most instructors today who, become instructors under whatever black belt they choose in the Gracie family, they spend a lot of time with that Gracie and just, living near them or running their school for them or being an assistant instructor. And Chet did all this living in Indiana, and he would just make a point to, fly out and visit and do seminars and come in and do privates, and he would go to different states to see different Gracies and just went after jiu-jitsu. And this is just proof that no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you can learn. Now, Chet took it to the extreme, and it's been 20 years now, and he has 2 schools and a handful of black belts. So he's obviously, the highest level of dedication, or one of the highest that I've seen. But it just shows you that wherever you are in the world, you can start to teach. And I asked Chet, who did you teach first? Because 20 years of teaching, I want to know who your first teacher, who your first student was, who made you a teacher. And it was his cousin and his best friend. And how did he teach them? He just went, did a seminar, came to Torrance, trained for a week, or even before all that, he just bought the VHS tapes that my father and Hoist, had years ago and that were very successful. And he just watched those and said, you guys, you know what? Let's go over this. But the truth is, Chet wasn't a teacher like many people would think he was a teacher when he was showing those techniques. He was showing what he learned in the tapes, but I'm pretty sure that he was open to the idea that he himself wasn't a master yet. So it was very much like, yeah, they did this, and then they did this. And for all we know, he was watching the tapes with his cousin and his best friend, 2 days later. They would watch the same lesson together. He brought them on board. And this is the level of teamwork and collaboration and instructors just being open with their students. Saying, you know what, I don't know everything. And what I do know is that I have acquired this building, I am paying this lease of this building, and I'm doing my best to go learn information, whether it be spending time at this academy or learning through Gracie University or traveling and doing seminars or bringing an instructor to our school. I am dedicated to learning information, and whatever I learn, I'm going to share with you. And I might not share it perfect, but we're going to work together and we're going to fine-tune it over time. And it doesn't matter if this person is a blue belt or a black belt. Because there are black belts who should open their classes by saying, you know what, I don't know everything, but I know some important principles, and I'm going to do my best to give you, the best information possible. Because I've been around black belts countless times where I feel like, man, this black belt is showing this technique, but he has no concept of distance management, or he's not even explaining how there's a right time to do this technique. So, black, blue, brown, it's all BS to some degree. What matters is that you have an open mind. You can say, you know what, this technique right here, I don't really know exactly, but I'm going to go call Henner, or I'm going to call Hedon, and I'm going to look into this and see how I can answer this for you. And that's something that, all black belts across the board, all instructors need to have more of, instead of the attitude of like, yeah, oh no, just do this, or that doesn't work, or I'm the man. Nobody's the man. I myself, on a regular basis, I'll stop and say, well, I don't even know what to do right here. Matter of fact, come over here, get me in that position, and let me figure it out. And I'll invent something on the spot. And I have the authority to invent techniques on the spot because I understand the founding principles of jiu-jitsu. And this is something that I do. And if you have a problem with me inventing techniques, that's a different story. We can discuss that on the mat one day. But this idea of, what about this? Trying this. Is it street applicable? Does this technique rely on natural body movements? Is this something that, does not rely, is efficient, does not rely on strength and explosiveness? If you ask yourself these questions and is it efficient, is it patient, is it falls in these categories, you're on the right track. Am I safe from getting knocked out in a street fight? So Chad did a great job, and we have an instructor right now, just to kind of create a new conversation, which is interesting. His name is Houston. He's a young kid, young man, becoming a young man. I think he's 17 now, 16 or 17, I'm not even sure. But Houston is a blue belt teaching in Mississippi. And obviously, number one, he's a blue belt, so he shouldn't be teaching. And I say this, I'm just being the devil's advocate. And number two, he is not even 18 or 21 years old. I don't know what the age is that would be okay to be teaching, but let's just say it's 21. So the jiu-jitsu world is not ready for a 17-year-old young man to be teaching jiu-jitsu. Now, I don't care what the jiu-jitsu world is ready for or not ready for. All I care about is how effective he is and the responses that we're getting from his students. If people are signing up and they're coming back with their children and their wives and they're bringing the whole family to sign up, he's on the right track. So the fact that he's building a clientele, by no means do I think that he's tricking them into signing up like many black belts do. They trick people by saying, oh, yeah, we teach self-defense. Yeah, the hoist did in UFC 1. You're going to learn all that here. But yet, students will go 6 years and never discuss a headlock or a punch to the face. So Houston is not, there's no trickery. When you go to Houston's Academy, you're going to learn how to defend yourself in a street fight. Kids will learn how to, protect themselves from bullies. They'll learn how to have more confidence. They'll be given techniques that will help build their confidence. So it's all 100% on the up and up. He is doing exactly what Hannah and I asked him to do and what we give him to teach. The content is the same as the Gracie Academy. The only difference is that he's younger and he's a blue belt. And, he's having a little struggle because people who think that they know what they're talking about are obviously condemning him. But at the end of the day, in 10 years, Houston, maybe in 5 years, 4 or 5 years, there will be no jiu-jitsu academy in Mississippi that even comes close to what he is offering to the community and to the state or wherever he is. He'll be running the show guaranteed only because he's 17 and what he's experiencing right now, what he's learning right now, he's already a tough kid. In 5 years, he'll be a brown belt, black belt, with that much more teaching experience, working with men, women, and children, and not only teaching just any jiu-jitsu, teaching jiu-jitsu that is, the realest, the most pure jiu-jitsu in the sense of what it was intended to be practiced, intended to be used for, which is self-defense and just making people, overall improving their lives. Nothing to the side of competition and sport, which is not bad, just not what we choose to make the focus of our schools. So I'm looking forward to 5 years from now seeing where Houston's at. Just Absolutely. One more example of somebody who has very little. Like, same thing, Chet had very little. But nobody told Chet, hey, Chet, you can't teach your cousin and you can't teach your best friend. He does what he wants, and now look where he is.
Right on. Those are two great examples. And this kind of brings us into our first official question, if you will, Ryron. And it is, I would like Ryron to discuss things that he likes to see in people that are looking to become a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructor. Also, maybe discuss his greatest learning experience while teaching Jiu-Jitsu that he could recommend for new instructors to better help their instruction. And that's from Art Lamas.
I think what I'm realizing now, just as for the first piece, just what I'm looking for in an instructor is, number one, I'm realizing that people who are instructors tied to whether it's the Gracie Academy or any academy or any organization, not even under us. I believe that instructor, before they are a fan, a fanatic for jiu-jitsu or the Gracie family or one specific Gracie, they have to be grateful for what it has done for them. So sometimes I meet people who want to teach jiu-jitsu and they're a little too excited to be in my presence. And they're a little, it's too much. And obviously that can go in two directions. It can go in the direction where, they're so excited to be around me that I don't give them the same, love and attention and excitement over a long period of time, and then they feel almost abandoned by me. That's one. But that excitement can also go in the direction where, they're excited, they love it, but they're equally excited to begin the journey of teaching. So, and that goes more towards what I'm looking for is this, an appreciation and for the art, just being very grateful for what it has done to you. When someone who wants to teach jiu-jitsu says, you know what, jiu-jitsu has changed my life, I can't even begin to explain what it's done for me, and now all I want to do is share this, that's most important. I see that and I'm like, wow, this guy or girl, this person will be an amazing instructor because their students will hear and will know of all the reasons why this instructor is teaching jiu-jitsu, and that'll help the students really just be on board and believe what it can do for them, and the possibilities of what jiu-jitsu can help in your life are endless. You can list the 10 most common, problems, whether it's, something like an illness or mental illness or physical. You could be, I almost want to say it can cure cancer to a certain degree, right? Because it's obviously exercise, but the problem, jiu-jitsu can help everything at the point. And everyone's going to say, Hito's crazy. He thinks that jiu-jitsu can cure cancer. What's wrong with you? It can't cure cancer. What's wrong with you, Hito? That's just how passionate I am about jiu-jitsu and how it can be applied to everything. But the point is that level of, it really helps you, and now you want to give to others, that's number one. And number two, as for a teacher, I think is, just your ability to be open and, learn a technique and question it and really put everything through the test. And obviously, if you're putting it to the test of, will this work against my training partner tonight in sparring, that isn't the test I want to know about. But are you really is the technique energy efficient? Does it rely on natural body movement? Does the technique, is it applicable in a street fight? And if it's not, which we teach techniques sometimes that you might not want to use in a street fight, but we're the first ones to say, this right here is not the best technique for a street fight. Obviously, some people might use it successfully, but I would never use this, and it's a little bit dangerous to get you knocked out. But nonetheless, there is beauty in learning techniques sometimes that might not be the most street applicable because they might teach you things like, how to, off-balance somebody, or they might teach you, might help your transitions. So, certain techniques, even the most ridiculous techniques that I would never, ever want to teach anybody, that I don't even like teaching, sometimes I will give somebody 20 minutes to show me that technique just so I can at least see it once and know it. I'm a black belt. I want to be exposed to everything at a very light level. So for an instructor to be very open-minded and not feel like they are the best in the world. The amount of times that I say out loud, I don't really know. Come over here. That attitude of I don't really know. I'm going to figure this out. Let's discuss this. You don't have to be the master of all masters and have the answer to all questions and never be wrong and never be in a position where you say, you know what, I'm stuck right here. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is to be stuck and then go work on it. We're one big team. Myself and my academy, myself and all of my students around the world, we are a big team. And if I'm puzzled with something, I'm going to ask my students. Sometimes I'll ask purple belt, I'll ask a blue belt, what do you think? How do you feel? And believe it or not, they'll give me some good information at times. And I'll say, hey, wow, that makes perfect sense. You're applying this principle to this moment, a little bit of this technique to this moment, and, we have an answer. So being open-minded and just really wanting to give back that which has done so much for you is the beginning. And number 3, if I had to give a third piece, it's you have to be hungry. You have to be an information seeker, because, if you're going to be teaching people who want to learn this stuff and they want to learn it more than you, then they should be the ones teaching. So it's a never-ending, especially today when you start as an instructor and a blue belt, purple belt instructor, you have to constantly be seeking information, whether that's, online, GracieUniversity.com, YouTube videos, books, seminars, anything. You're just information seeking, principle seeking, watching old interviews of old, just original guys in the jiu-jitsu world, going after seminars. Go do a seminar with Hixel, go do a seminar with Hoyes, with Pedro Sauer, the Valente brothers, go to an Andre Galvão seminar, go to a Marcelo Garcia seminar, go to all seminars of all people, and just watching and learning, because you're going to have students who have questions, and it never ends. There's always the what is that, what is this, and you have your filters. So you do your seminars, you take what you can, and worst case, you say, hey, you know what, I learned this from this instructor, he explained this. It doesn't work the best for me, but let's run with it. So seek information, online, in person, it's all the same. Okay, if you go to a seminar and you watch, Hoyler teach an amazing seminar, wow, it's great, learn amazing stuff. You might ask him one question, and then you leave, you go home. Or you go online and you learn online and you ask a question online, type a question in to the forum, and then we answer the question. Okay? And both moves felt great for you. They're both amazing ways of learning, and that information is valuable information to give to your students. So am I suggesting never going to try to learn in person from instructors? Of course not. But once again, we can never devalue the information that's online these days. It's amazing information all across the board. And I go on YouTube and learn watch some random half guard movement. I go out there on the mat, and before you know it, I feel very confident in that technique. So let's not get it twisted that, as an instructor, don't limit yourself to where you can learn information. Hopefully that was pretty much that.
Yeah, very nice. All right, moves us to our second question, Ryron, and that is, I once read that Elio was proud that he couldn't perform one pull-up, whilst achieving all the things that he did, thus emphasizing BJJ's techniques. Was this really true? Did Elio do any strength and conditioning other than BJJ in his heyday, or towards later in life? And also, what is Ryron's view of supplemental strength and conditioning for BJJ? And that's from Derek Fang.
Yes. As for my grandfather exercising and working out, I'm sure that I know that he would play, like he would do, he could do pull-ups and sit-ups and push-ups, but it wasn't something where like for example, he's going to fight somebody in, 3 weeks or 2 weeks. And I'm not really exactly certain as to how short of notice he would take fights, but I do know that he was somebody who was constantly ready. And the bottom line is that he would challenge somebody to fight them tomorrow. So he never relied on this idea of, let's have, a month and a half to get physically fit to go out there and perform. Nor did he ever feel like he needed that because he believed so much in his jiu-jitsu. But naturally, he's only had his, 18 professional fights. There's lots of off time. And in general, when you're teaching jiu-jitsu all day and you're training a lot, you're just around this, I'm sure he explored and played with, it's just some pull-ups right here, warm my body up. But it was never like, okay, let's get ready for this. But my whole life when I saw him, teaching and training, he always said, man, I don't do pull-ups. I don't do push-ups. And it's cool that I just do what I do. I just do jiu-jitsu. And another example of this is I was speaking to Edmund, who is Ronda Rousey's head coach. And we help Ronda, Hannah and I, with jiu-jitsu and roll with her once in a while. And Ronda does not do strength and conditioning. She's not throwing weights across a room and flipping ropes around. She just fights and fights and fights. And she might do movements, on the mat and in the boxing ring that help build strength around, very important boxing or judo or jiu-jitsu movements. But this idea of, being very physically fit and lifting a lot and moving a lot, it was not something that he liked. And I've never really met a professional fighter, which Eddie Gracie was a martial artist. He wasn't a professional fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He was a
great distinction.
teacher. He was a teacher who would fight to prove his art, that it was effective. Ronda Rousey is a martial artist, yes, and she's a judo practitioner. And any art she learns, she can master it. But she is a professional athlete, at least today that's her focus. And even being a professional athlete, she's not making that a very big part, if any, of her training regimen, which is really cool to see. And I feel like many fighters, today might do a little bit more than they need, a little bit more physical preparation and conditioning than they actually need. And I don't know for certain, but from people that I do know that fight MMA, sometimes you worry so much about being physically fit that you actually, your body actually burns out. You start to grapple and you start to fight for 2 rounds of 5 minutes. At the end of the second round, they're exhausted. Maybe they're being conditioned too much in the, what do they call it? The conventional way of lifting weights. And that's why the personal trainers today that are incorporating, conditioning into more natural body movements and things that are more, they're less conventional, are, I think, more successful, which I like that. And I'm sure Andrew Gracie would be more a fan of, jumping and fast twitch, shoving up and down some boxes. That's not true because he was never fast twitch anyways. But the point is that he would be more towards out of the gym type conditioning than in the weight training gym. So more body weight type things.
Yeah, more body weight, more functional and sport specific.
Correct. And fortunately for Andrew Gracie, when he was fighting, very rare was there time limit. If there was time, there was no judges. So a draw would mean victory to him. And today, fighters are under pressure to win in, 35-minute rounds. Mm-hmm. And they feel like being physically explosive will give them the edge. And in many cases it has. It has done good things for them. So all the power to them. But Eddie Gracie was fighting in a time where there was no pressure to win. The number one, I guess, objective was to survive. And while surviving, if you see an opportunity, you take it and you win. And to survive, you need a lot less, conditioning than to impose your will and overcome somebody and defeat them like you do today in the MMA world. You need that more. So his world allowed. And that's why I myself, I'm not too much concerned with working out and lifting weights and pushing weight. And the funny part is that I'm not even an MMA fighter. But I sometimes feel a little like people say things like, oh, yeah, your arms, you don't have that big of biceps. Like, why don't you have big biceps? And believe it or not, I actually want to exercise. But the reason is to protect my body, to be stronger not because I want to look better for the beach, but to be stronger, to protect myself when I train with, Tom Ali, football player, or when I'm rolling with Ronda Rousey, who is an animal when she trains. Your body gets broken down training with professionals to where me lifting weights, I would have more body armor to protect myself for them. So, but the fact that people say things like, yeah, you don't really have that many, that your biceps aren't that big. And my first thought is, maybe I should get some bigger biceps. Get some implants or get like some, lift weights or something. But then I think, who really cares? What matters is that, I'm doing big things. And if you ask anybody who trains with me, they're going to say, yeah, he was a lot stronger than we ever imagined. But I don't have those biceps that everybody wants, So, and it's kind of what Ronda Rousey says, don't be a do-nothing bitch, right? It's the whole body image thing where people were on Ronda's case for looking manly. But she's like, I'm functional. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm taking over the world in my industry and other industries. And in her world, she's the one right now. So
exactly,
this is my body. Don't worry about me, right? I'm doing big things. So that's, even men have to be reminded that, it's all good. As long as you're doing your thing and you're moving forward and you're being productive and you're, making a small dent in the world and helping people and influencing people, that's all that matters. Your body will be what it has to be to do what you have to do. And now I'm not doing my curls and my biceps anymore. But yes, I will when time comes, when my children get a little bit older and I don't have a 3-month-old at home, I will find some time to slowly begin to work out again and get my body armor back on. And with questions about supplements also?
It wasn't, but certainly speak to that if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, supplements, I think if you eat very, very well, and you train at a moderate intensity, and you're going to be great. But obviously people sometimes train very, very hard and they break their bodies down and they're training twice a day and they just, whether they're training professional fighters or not, it doesn't hurt to sometimes take supplements. There are obviously better quality supplements than others, which is not my field. But to look into, what's good and what's good for you, that's a good idea. And I think that people, there's no harm as long as it's quality stuff and it's been, tested.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a real important distinction you made a minute ago about, being a martial artist or being a professional fighter, professional athlete. So the needs are very different, for most of us who are martial artists. And as long as you stay functional and are moving towards your own self-growth and, like you said, making an impact in the world, that's a beautiful thing, and that's all you need. It's a different if you are one of the very few in the world that are high-level professional athletes. So, it might work for them or it might be great supplemental for them, but for most of our needs, I think the body weight and just the functional exercises, doing the things you do, will carry you a long way.
Yeah, like it's just simple things like stretching and yoga to a safe level. And I think that lifting weights, especially as you start to get a little bit older and you're doing less sparring and working out, doing light weights is very good, and paying attention to your posture, getting your back strong so you don't have back problems as you get older. These are things that, just on a longevity scale and health scale, I think it is healthy. Now, fortunately for me, I'm doing so much training that serves as my exercise. But if you ask my father, he's going to say, yeah, my father does more exercise than I do. Right? Just in the sense of body workouts and exercises. He's doing more than me right now. I might spar with, for every one person that he rolls with, I might roll with 100. Yeah. Which, believe me, I'm not moving weights, but I'm moving bodies around. So it's still a certain degree of working out. But so my father would say, yeah, I do think that if you're older and you're getting in your 40s and 50 years old, it's nice to make sure that your body is as strong as possible, because you know how it is. As we get older, we start getting smaller and just curling up, and before you know it, you're back to 4'9", 5'2", and you're shrinking. So you have to always be considering your back and your keeping everything strong.
All right, good thoughts. Okay, next question, and
yes,
this one comes from Daniel Bryant, and it's as a purple belt instructor and a small man, I want to be the shining example of what Gracie Jiu-Jitsu can accomplish versus a larger opponent. We have a student, though, that is very strong and roughly 60 pounds heavier than I, who comes from a wrestling pedigree. Obviously, it is near impossible to get him on his back, and it is also very tough to tire him out, and I'm sure being perpetually on the bottom doesn't help. Anyway, I fear I am not able to really blow him away with jiu-jitsu effectiveness by simply surviving on the bottom. Is there something you could suggest that might help me reach him? I just don't want to do this student a disservice by not being able to be more effective, quote, in his eyes, not mine, when he and I move around. Thanks for your help. Daniel Bryant.
I would assume that this wrestler does not have too many offensive techniques, correct?
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Yeah. He's
able to lock you down really well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and obviously if he's coming back, it's because he knows he needs or he wants jiu-jitsu. He wants to learn what there is to learn. So I don't think that he's too concerned with the fact that he's out wrestling his coach. I think that he just is happy to be, in a jiu-jitsu room. I've had a couple times where I've rolled with wrestlers. There's a friend of mine named Josh McDonald in San Francisco, and he's an amazing wrestler. He had many MMA professional fights, a good handful, amazing fighter. And Josh is somebody who, there have been times that we've rolled, and like the whole 5-minute round, I was on my back. And, his threat level, his submission, like the ability to threaten me, to attack me, is a 2 out of a 10. If Henner is a 10 in the threat level on top. But it doesn't mean that his top position is not valuable, because he can obviously be on top for judges and MMA. He can throw punches from up there. He is safe from being punched. So there's a lot of value for being up there. But the point is that a whole roll of 5 minutes, me with Josh, sometimes, like, when the roll is done, I'm a little more learning, the wrestling side of things from him. And I'm open to that because he's an amazing wrestler. And maybe, round 2, 3, 4, 5, I then might find myself on top of him or in his guard, going for a leg lock. So it might take some time before I'm in a position where I can tell he is, like, a little bit concerned. And then therefore I can give him some advice. Although we're both professionals, so it's not so much that he wants to learn that much. I'm sure he appreciates any lesson he can get. But the point is that this guy is, this wrestler at this school, is somebody who just needs to be talked to in a way where it's like, hey, listen, we can wrestle if you want and just have good rolls and just go crazy and wrestle around and then be done. Or if you want, we can do some positional sparring and different kinds of drills, like, side mount escapes and controls, side mount submission, bottom person only defending. That way I can have the opportunity to teach you what jiu-jitsu has to offer, because if we just roll, I might not side mount you for 10 minutes. And I don't know if it interests you to learn that. So if it interests you to learn that, then lay down. If not, I'll just keep rolling. And kind of leave it up to him. Don't be so pressured to have to, really blow this guy's mind and show him what jiu-jitsu is about. Ask him, would you like to learn? Because the truth is, one day this wrestler will be stuck under somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And either A, you have the knowledge that jiu-jitsu has to offer, or B, you don't have it. So today is a time and place where you can learn it, and I'm here to help you. So if you want to learn, let me know. If not, we can just keep rolling. So I think the instructor just period. It could partly also be that the instructor doesn't want to be rolling with somebody, and maybe not even able to submit or get on top of that wrestler. It might even look a little bit bad in the eyes of the students that are watching, other students in the building. But you can't think that way because, you know, we have some good wrestlers that I've rolled with, and in the 5-minute round, I'm on the bottom the whole time. And I still display my jiu-jitsu from the bottom by being very patient, elbows tucked in, hands in my neck, not getting submitted, and then it's done. 10-minute round is over. So I don't feel pressure to perform when I'm going against, you know, an Olympic, an All-American wrestler. There's no pressure. I just do what I do, and if that's in the bottom today, it's in the bottom today.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like it'd be very helpful if I put myself in his position that, yeah, maybe you want to be able to just shine and get out of the situation very easily and to yourself and those around you, you know, just really showcase what you have. But I think it's very valuable, especially how you shared that, you know, there's times when you are on the bottom the whole time with a wrestler and you just do what you got to do. Yeah.
100%. And I'm sure this wrestler just watches some different MMA fights out there and some different jiu-jitsu matches or street fights. Sometimes people who you never imagined would be on the bottom are on the bottom. And then they're stuck on the bottom. And then worse than stuck, they're getting beat up from the bottom. They're getting knocked out. So all kinds of things happen with somebody on the bottom. And, you know, it's our purpose is to teach people that you can be okay on the bottom and also when and how to escape from underneath your attacker.
I like how you suggested the positional sparring and things because you could tell this person that you obviously, you know, are great at getting on top and keeping someone down. But sooner or later, you know, somebody maybe they're even a bigger and more advanced wrestler. And sooner or later, somebody can put you on the bottom, and you need to have the skills to survive and do great things from the bottom as well. So exposing them to all those positions and working from there sounds like a great idea.
Yes. Cool.
All right. How are we doing with time?
Last question.
Okay. All right. And you could probably talk about this all day if you needed to, but it says, Professor Ryron, there are a number of very vocal Gracie University haters out there. Why do you think this is so? And what do you feel is the most misunderstood part/aspect of Gracie University?
Yeah, online learning, online belts. Yeah, people think that if you just watch the techniques online and then we'll just mail you your belt. Or you watch techniques online and then you put them on a video and you do it. They don't realize that you watch the technique online, you get together with 2, 3, 4, there's a garage of people that I know in Fresno that train together. It's like 25 people in their garage. The garage is like huge, and there's 25 people who work together in the same work, and they all train together. So what they're doing is they're learning techniques. They're following our instructions as to how to practice these techniques, how to resist at 30%, 70%, 100%, how to resist as if you're a strong, unskillful opponent, and then resist like you're somebody who knows jiu-jitsu and is using technique to stop the technique, and then resist like you're somebody in a street fight who wants to punch and break free. So we give so many drills and so much direction as to how to practice this technique so you can best, you know, learn it and own it, that out of I would say, you know, we've had maybe, I don't know, I personally have rolled with a good, you know, 30 to 50 people, no more, maybe 80 to 100 people in the last couple years, 2 years, who have gotten their blue belts, their first stripes, their second stripes via Gracie University. And when I roll with them, if they didn't tell me, I would never even imagine that they were learning anywhere less, less amazing or less adequate than the Gracie Academy. Like, they literally feel perfect. Their timing, their understanding of, when to yield or when to fight, their patience, their energy efficiency, their control, their precision, their pressure, their distance management, everything is just so good. Sometimes they're so good that I say, you know what, they must be Gracie University, because they must have followed every instruction that we gave. So there's so much work that goes into getting your promotions via Gracie University that nobody even knows or cares to understand and know about. And that's the bottom line, is that I've heard countless stories of students who have gotten their belts online and gotten stripes, and then went and did tournaments and won gold medals, second place, third place, won 2 matches, lost 2. Like, they're right in there with the people that are training at their average academies every day. And the reason why is because people who want to learn online are special people. I am not that kind of person. If you said, Hito, everything that you know today, go relearn it online, I would probably not get back to where I am today. But there are people who are on this path who will be as effective as I am. And they're young people. Houston, for example, doesn't live with us. He's learning online, coming and doing seminars. Learning online, driving 14 hours to a seminar. Learning online, coming to LA. Learning online, going to the immersion camps. So Houston will be as good as me. If you can come back in time and have Houston roll with Andre Galvão, it'll be the same performance when Houston is 24 years old that I gave. So the point is that there's so much, like, people are getting so good and learning so well online, and they're doing tournaments, they're getting in street fights, and they're safe. There's only success stories, and it's okay that people don't understand this and they don't see it. All we care about is that those that do go to Gracie University and sign up and start learning, that they say, you know what? Wow, like, this has never been presented so clearly. I am safe in my home with my 4 friends. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm having fun, and I feel this. Like, I'm owning these techniques, and that's all that matters. So that's the biggest misconception, is that there's very little training to be done. And obviously, people worry about not having an authoritative figure, a black belt, that can say, oh, right, wrong, yes, and correct you. And really kind of, I guess, make sure you're going in the right direction. But the truth is, I don't know who was Helio Gracie's black belt when he was, improvising and, trial and error and studying these techniques. Who was my grandfather's black belt that overlooked him and said, no, stop, a little more this way, a little more that way? Exactly. There was nobody that was his black belt. There was nobody overlooking him. And then people will argue, well, he was a special human being. And that's what I say once again. Anybody who can do what we're asking them to do on Gracie University is special. And I'll once again clarify that I am not special. Hito Gracie is not special. Hito Gracie would not sit for 2.5 hours with a computer in a garage with 4 friends on a mat to learn jiu-jitsu. That's not my style. I need someone to say, hey, put your hand here. I need somebody hands-on. And I would imagine that maybe 10% of people that are learning jiu-jitsu today are special, and that they can just have a book and on their own drill it and do different intensities and be helpful and create something out of very little. The 95%, 90% like me, they want somebody looking over them saying, hey, stop, everybody line up. We need that order. And I need that because I'm not one of the best students in the world. I'm not an amazing student, right? It's like kids and homeschooling. Homeschooling is a beautiful thing if your 8-year-old child can be excited about going online and just be fascinated and excited about researching insects. That kid might have a chance at homeschooling. They might actually become a genius if they're information seekers, you know? And but maybe the majority of kids, if they were at home, they'd be in the backyard throwing rocks to the wall all day. You know what I'm saying? Playing video games. So maybe some kids need school because, you know, so that's the same thing as adults. It's a small example. I'm not sure how well it relates, but the bottom line is that people in the academy, now even people who are learning online, right? Thousands of people who are signing up on Gracie University, thousands and thousands are learning online. And when people are learning, many of them might feel like, you know what? My 4 friends in the garage, I need some more. So I have also heard many people tell me like, wow, I learned online for, 6 months, and now I'm at a school in Georgia training, or a school here, a school there. So they've been transferred to a school. But they might have never started training at a school. Maybe the intensity of that school would have been too much for them. Maybe the techniques that were presented at that school might have been too complex and not relevant to them in their very beginning phase of jiu-jitsu. But thanks to Gracie University, we gave them the core techniques to help them understand the basics. Now they have the basics, and obviously they can keep learning more advanced techniques on Gracie University, but at least now they are prepared to jump into that swimming pool, that school, and be surrounded by people who are, a little less caring of, teaching them the basic techniques to survive and more concerned with more advanced techniques and just sparring. But it's not a problem now because they built their core. Their foundation is strong. And believe it or not, even black belts today who have strong cores and, have been training for years will go back and say, you know what? Wow, the basics were never explained to me that simply. And even the advanced techniques, it's great to have a library of techniques to pull from to teach my lessons. Because I know that footlock, and I know that footlock counter, but you guys mentioned a couple of details I haven't really seen before, and it's just very much simplified an advanced footlock defense, and now I feel more confident teaching to my students. So whether you're a white blue belt or a brown or black belt, teacher or student, there's something for you on Gracie University to make your learning or your presentation of the techniques better.
Absolutely. I've heard countless times where someone I know will be training at a school and watch a video on Gracie University and be blown away about the detail and say, I've known that technique, but I checked this technique out, and wow, I really got something from it. So, bottom line is, whether you're doing it through Gracie University or at a school, as long as you're doing jiu-jitsu and making it part of your life and living that jiu-jitsu life on your journey, then you're doing well.
Yes, and even if you're not a qualified instructor, start teaching somebody, because I strongly believe that those people who teach others will be on the mat longer. Because when you teach others, the gratification of helping someone will be an extra pull to bringing you back to the mat. Because if you're just training and getting beat up, you get a little drained. But if you're helping someone, whether it's 3 or 4 people in your academy, and you're just helping them with details, they're going to be so grateful in most cases that you are going to feel appreciated, and therefore you're going to want to come back and help them more. And even if you can't beat anybody up, you're happy to be helping those 4 people in your academy.
Well said. All right, sir. Well, I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to talk with you and to have you share your insight and knowledge. So thank you so much for your time today and for giving us that knowledge.
Thank you so much, and I have an idea for another talk, which we'll do later, which is
Absolutely.
It's the idea of children learning martial arts or MMA. Like how many kids want to be MMA fighters? MMA fighter is the new NBA player. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
MMA versus martial arts. I have a very interesting talk that I've had with people over the last couple of weeks, which should be fun to share. So we'll do that soon.
I look forward to it very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, and be well.
All right, peace.
Okay, always a pleasure to talk with Ryron Gracie. And if you have questions for the next round, next time he'll be on, go ahead and send them to GracieJujitsuRocks@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a message at 919-251-5053. And this can be questions on the subject he alluded to, the MMA for kids, or it could be for anything at all, and we'll have him touch on those as well. And once again, congratulations to Chet. Time now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. So we started this episode talking just a little bit about taking time to be grateful for your life and what you have. So let's expound on that and talk about spending a moment every day thinking of someone to thank. This is a very powerful strategy, if you will, and it may only take you a couple seconds to a couple minutes to complete, but is definitely a habit worth cultivating and can become one of the best and most positive things in your life, again, if you take time to cultivate it. So if we stop and think about it, most of us have plenty of people in our lives that we can thank and to be grateful for. This could be friends, family members, people at work, school, who have done something or have an impact on your life, and that's worthy of gratitude. You may also want to thank your God or higher power for the gift of life itself or for the beauty of nature. As you think of people to be thankful for, it can be anyone. It can be someone who allows you to merge in traffic. It could be someone who held a door open for you, whatever. The point is, when you focus your mind and your attention on things or people to be grateful for, your mind isn't focusing on negativity in your life. And if you're like me and most people, left unchecked, your mind can easily just go to negative places at times, and it's an easy habit to fall into. So this quick exercise is a way to keep that from happening. The more we're focused on gratitude, being grateful, the less we'll focus on any kind of negativity in our lives. And this is a powerful, powerful shift. So I suggest doing this first thing in the morning. Again, it doesn't have to take long at all. Just upon waking up, think of someone you're grateful for and why, and just really feel that gratitude. Feel that gratitude and allow it to program your mind into a grateful mindset and a positive mindset to start your day. And I think if you cultivate this, you'll really get a lot out of it. And that's going to do it for this episode. As always, certainly appreciate you listening. I appreciate your feedback. You can go to the website or, of course, call and leave a message with any kind of feedback you have. Please go to our Facebook page and like us if you haven't, as well as Twitter, and you can just do a quick search to find those. Go to iTunes, rate the show, and leave a comment there as well if you'd like. So until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.